You cleaned everything: seats, carpets, floor mats, maybe even paid for a deep detail. For a moment, it felt fixed, fresh, like the problem was gone. Then it came back. That same smell, damp, sour. That faint, dirty sock odor mixed with stale, humid air. Like a locker room that never fully dried. Not faint, not subtle, familiar, and frustrating. That's not a cleaning failure. It means you never touched the source. Because the smell in your car isn't coming from what you scrubbed. Not the fabric, not the surfaces, not the places you can reach. It's coming from inside the system you don't see. And every time you turn on your AC, you trigger it. You don't just notice the smell, you breathe it in. What's moving through that air isn't just trapped odor. It's microscopic buildup, moisture-fed. Quiet biological activity, bacteria, mold, biofilm, settle deep inside the airflow system, and it gets pushed out, directly into your space. This isn't just unpleasant, it keeps coming back for a reason. Because everything you've been taught about cleaning focuses on what's visible, but the real source, it was never on the surface. Welcome to Trust No Instinct. If questioning what seems obvious matters to you, subscribe. This didn't start with your car. It started with air systems. By the late 1970s, buildings across the US were becoming more energy efficient. Tighter insulation, less ventilation. Air stayed inside longer, so did moisture. And something new started showing up. A persistent damp, sour smell, even in spaces that looked completely clean. It became known as sick building syndrome, not because the buildings were dirty, because the air systems were. Cooling coils, especially aluminum evaporators, would condense moisture from the air. That moisture didn't fully dry. It stayed trapped in dark, enclosed spaces. And over time, something started to grow, not visible, but noticeable. By the 1990s, the industry had a name for it: dirty sock syndrome. That same musty, sour odor. The one people couldn't explain. The one that kept coming back. This wasn't a mystery. The mechanism was understood, documented, repeated across HVAC systems, offices, and eventually, vehicles. Because modern car AC systems use the same principle, same condensation, same moisture retention, same closed environment. The engineering community understood it. Car owners were never taught it, so the focus stayed on surfaces, while the real problem stayed hidden, inside the system itself. Here's what's actually happening inside your car. When you turn on the AC, air is pulled through a cold evaporator coil. That coil drops the temperature fast enough to condense moisture out of the air, just like water forming on a cold glass. So, now you have water, inside a dark, enclosed space, with constant airflow. At first, it seems harmless. But the system doesn't fully dry when you turn the car off. The moisture stays behind, thin, invisible, clinging to the metal fins and narrow channels of the coil. And that's where the shift happens. Dust particles, organic debris, skin cells, pollen, everything your cabin filter partially traps. Some of it still gets through. And it sticks. Now you have moisture and organic material sitting together in the dark for hours, days, weeks. That's not just buildup, it's a surface. And over time, that surface becomes active. Microscopic growth begins to form: bacteria, mold, biofilm, layering itself along the coil. Not enough to see, but enough to smell. That musty, sour, damp odor, that's the byproduct. And when the system turns back on, it doesn't stay there. It gets lifted, carried, pushed through the vents, and released into the air you breathe, not once, every drive. So naturally, you'd expect the solution to target that: the coil, the system, the source. But that's not what most solutions do. Instead, they go here: seats, carpets, surfaces, sprays, fragrances, temporary neutralizers, even ozone treatments that fade with time. Different products, different steps, same result. The smell comes back. Because the source was never removed. The underlying mechanism never changed. It was just redirected, broken into smaller problems, smaller fixes, repeatable steps, a system that treats symptoms, not origin. So you clean again, and again, and again, because it feels like you're doing the right thing. but the airflow system keeps running. The moisture cycle continues. The buildup grows back, quietly, predictably. And unless you go where the problem actually lives, it doesn't stop. Now, the pattern isn't just frustrating, it's structured. A $12 air freshener that fades in a few weeks. A $15 spray labeled as a monthly refresh. A cabin filter replaced every 15,000 kilometers. On schedule, on routine, without ever touching what's behind it. Each step feels right, logical, responsible, incomplete, because none of them reach the one place where the smell actually forms, the evaporator. So what happens next isn't failure, it's repetition. The scent fades, the airflow continues, the buildup stays, and slowly the smell returns. Just enough to notice, just enough to act again. That's why it feels endless, why nothing ever fully fixes it, why you start to think it's something you missed. But look at the structure: visible problems, sellable solutions, repeatable purchases, not deeper access, not internal cleaning, not root removal, so you buy again, spray again, replace again. And that's exactly what keeps the cycle alive. Not because the solutions are useless, because they stop too early. And unless something changes, you'll keep chasing a smell that never really leaves. You weren't failing to clean your car. You were cleaning the wrong system. So if the smell isn't on the surface, you don't clean the surface. You go where it lives, inside the airflow system. Step 1. Replace the cabin filter. Open the glove box or check under the hood near the windshield. You'll find a thin rectangular filter inside a small housing. Slide it out. If it looks dark, damp, or smells musty, it's part of the problem. Replace it. Takes 5 minutes. Step 2. Clean the evaporator coil. This is where the smell actually lives. Use an evaporator cleaner foam, labeled for car, AC systems. Apply it through the cabin filter slot, or the AC drain tube under the car. Engine off, AC off. Follow the instructions. The foam expands into the coil, breaks down the thin biological layer, then drains out. You won't see the result. But this is the first time you're targeting the source. 10 to 15 minutes. Step 3, dry the system. Start the engine, turn off the AC, but keep the fan running. Let it run for 5 to 10 minutes. Warm airflow helps dry the coil, because moisture started this. Drying slows it down. You can do all of this in under 30 minutes. No detailing, no guesswork. I need to be honest with you. If the buildup has been there for years, thicker, deeper, fully established, foam alone may not be enough. Some systems need to be opened, partial disassembly, direct access to the coil, because once that layer becomes dense, it doesn't rinse out easily. This isn't a universal fix, it's a correct direction. And that matters, because now you're not reacting to the smell. You're going to where it actually begins. By now, you can feel the shift. The smell was never random. It was repeating, not in the places you cleaned, in the system you didn't see. And once you notice that, it stops being about your car. This wasn't about a smell. It's about how small problems hide inside systems. Repeat quietly and train you to fix the wrong thing, again and again, until it feels normal, until it feels like your fault. But it isn't. It's pattern, structure. And once you see it here, you start seeing it everywhere, in things that never fully get fixed, in problems that keep coming back, in solutions that almost work. Once you see it, you don't go back. So, if you want to think this way, to spot what others miss, to break cycles instead of repeating them, subscribe to Trust No Instinct, because the surface is where problems appear, but never where they begin.